Good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Joseph Banks. I'm the Assistant Director for Career Services, as well as the dedicated career coach for the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. And I just want to start off by thanking everyone who's here today, as well as any future listeners who may be watching this on YouTube later. This is our digital takeout series, a great opportunity to hear from other USU alums, talk about their experiences, and discuss the opportunities that await many of our CHaSS students. And so, before we begin, I just want to let everyone know that they can use the chat feature in the questions and answers to ask questions to our speakers today. And we have London monitoring those after the first part of the discussion. And I'm going to turn the time over to Andrea to introduce not just one, but two guests today. We're moving up in the world. Andrea, take it away.
Thank you very much, Joe. And my slides are going crazy. Here we go. I am so pleased to have our guest with us today, joining us from New York City, and excited to have our audience joining us here from wherever you are listening today. So thanks for joining us. I'm going to start by introducing our first guest. Our first guest is Cami Cannon. A Cache Valley native, Cami Cannon graduated with a degree in liberal arts in 2011. Following graduation, she pursued a degree in plant science from the College of Agriculture and Applied Sciences, which she finished in 2015. Having developed a love for art and science, Cami looked for opportunities that would allow her to explore both and began working with USU Extension, providing guidance for local farmers and designing outreach materials. After 2.5 years, she decided to pursue design full-time and got an internship with Logan-based company Voray. Cami then moved to Brooklyn, New York, and took on a second internship with Reitdesign before landing a role as a digital designer for New York-based handbag company Dagne Dover in 2018. Now as the senior digital designer, Cami has a keen eye for color and design trends, which she leverages to spearhead a variety of creative campaigns. Cami is still in Brooklyn, where she resides with her husband Quentin and cat Papa. Welcome, Cami. And our next guest today, I'm sorry, my mouse just doesn't want to cooperate. We'll get there. There we go. Is Danica Moran. And Danica graduated from Utah State University in 2013 with a degree in journalism and began working as an events manager for a real estate firm in Salt Lake City. After applying for a part-time seasonal position with Tiffany Co, it was quickly apparent that this was more than a seasonal gig, and the infamous little blue box convinced Danica to change course and pursue a career in retail. She would continue to moonlight for the Salt Lake City location while working in event management and tech recruitment. In 2018, Danica secured a position in the 5th cohort of the Tiffany Academy for Excellence and Diversity in Retail Leadership, an industry-famed executive rotational program, and was given the opportunity to relocate to New York City. She picked up and headed to New York, sight unseen, with her fiance and poodle, Scottie Pippen. I'm going to assume Scottie is the poodle. And Danica now manages the fashion floor sales team at the iconic New York Flagship store on Fifth Avenue, where she and her staff of 32 sales professionals generate $60 million in sales annually. Welcome, Danica. Welcome, Cami. We're so excited to have you with us today. And I do want to turn things over to you so that our audience can hear from you. And I'm going to ask you to start by telling us a little bit, go beyond the brief bios I've read to tell us a little bit about how you came to your positions and your career path and what it is you like about your job and how you stay current with the industry, and just sort of give us a brief overview of all things about your great careers. And let's see, we'll start, Cami, since I introduced you first, I'll go to you first.
Okay, thank you so much, Andrea. It's so great to be here. I'm so honored and so happy that CHaSS provides an opportunity like this for students and for anyone who wants to listen. So how I chose my current career path, it's kind of a winding road, but I was never one of those people who knew exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't have like a calling like some people do, and I felt like I was the only one that was like that. But now that I'm older, I realize that's not true. But because of that, I kind of meandered in my courses in college, and I ended up studying liberal arts, which was perfect for me at the time because it allowed me to explore what I liked and feel like I could freely take any class that sounded fun to me. And that was really great. I loved my first degree so much. And when I graduated, though, I felt like I knew what I liked, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what my career should be. And I didn't feel like I had a strong sense of direction. And I didn't, regrettably, I didn't take advantage of all the resources that are offered to college students in my first degree. So after thinking about it and talking to some friends, I realized that I wanted to go back and do plant science. So I did that. And 2 years into it, I found out about graphic design, and somehow I had never heard of it before. And when I heard of it, I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds like what I want to do. You know, I thought I wanted to be a farmer, and that's why I did plant science. But I worked on a farm and it was very hard. It was so fulfilling and amazing, but for a career, it just didn't feel like my place. So I kind of grappled with the idea of maybe switching majors to do graphic design, but I talked to a professor who gave me some good advice, and he said, graphic design is one of those things that you don't really need a degree in as long as you have a good portfolio. So I kind of held on to that and just finished up my degree, took as many art classes as I could. And then when I graduated, I was lucky enough to get a job where I worked both as a plant scientist and as a graphic designer. And that was with USU Extension. And after a couple of years in that, I decided, okay, I want to pursue this even further. So I got the internship at Vuray in Logan, which is a bag company that's really great. And after working there for a little while, I was like, okay, yeah, this is something I want to keep doing. So when my husband graduated, we decided to move to New York, and I got another internship in New York at a small design studio. And I was working both for Vuray remotely and for this small design studio in New York. And when those both ended, I interviewed at Dagne Dover and got the job, and I was ecstatic. I love it. I'm so happy. I've been there for 2.5 years now. And what I love about my job is just like for me, working creatively and designing is such an enjoyable thing. Like hours can pass by and it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, when is this going to be over? It's just very enjoyable for me. I really like it a lot. And I love collaborating with strategic thinkers or creative thinkers on my team. And I'm very inspired by my company. And I think that's a really great part of my job. And I'm really lucky to have that. They also trust me and give me a lot of freedom to design things that I think are interesting and explore that. And they've also given me a lot of opportunities to grow and progress. And it's a small company. There's maybe 25 people. And so I get to wear a lot of hats and push myself in ways that I never thought I would. And that's been really great. And what I do to stay updated with the industry is I try to read articles and follow other brands that I think are doing a really great job in design. I like to look at their websites and their Instagram and their ads. And then I like to see if I can find like graphic design seasonal or yearly trend reports. So that's me.
Thank you so much. And Danica, we'll turn the time over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Cami. It's so exciting to be with you all. Much like Cami, it's so funny. I never really knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I was excited for my future, but I didn't know what it would look like. Even now when I have to order lunch, I get overwhelmed because I want to try everything. And I thought that that was much the same at my time at USU. I knew that I wanted to be in a big city and I knew that I wanted to be successful. But after that, that was the end of my list. So after I graduated, I started at an events firm, which I didn't particularly love. And I decided that I needed a bit of a side hustle. And I heard that Tiffany Company down at the local mall in Salt Lake City was hiring for seasonal positions. So I found myself there and I loved it. It took me a few years to really decide that I loved my side hustle more than my actual position. And I finally decided to, jump in with both feet and go full time with Tiffany and Company. I was there for a couple of years and had a fantastic time. I really fell in love with both the brand, the American iconic brand. It's such an amazing opportunity to be such a part of it. And loved what I did for the first time. And so in 2017, I read an article in the New York Times about the Tiffany Academy, which was a program that launched here in New York City. And I read about, the opportunity that they were offering for young new leadership roles to move to New York City. And I thought, well, how great is this? I already work for this company, so how exciting. I spent the next year of my life interviewing nonstop for the Academy. And once I got the position, I started here in the 2018 cohort, and my life completely changed. I moved with, like Andrea said, my poodle and my now fiance, and we moved sight unseen to New York City, and it's been nonstop since then. It was an 18-month intensive program that took me everywhere from commuting to the middle of New Jersey by bus for a branch store there, to opening a men's pop-up here on Fifth Avenue, to planning a concert in the Met, and it's been an incredible ride. So at the commencement of the Tiffany Academy, I got a position here in the New York Flagship as a sales manager for the fashion floor. So I've been here for just over a year. I was fortunate enough to be hired last January full time, right before the world shut down. So it was an interesting time to jump into a huge retail store.
Wow, that's really interesting. Thanks, both Danica and Cami. So I'm going to ask the next question here, and just as far as your interest, living in a big city, metropolitan area such as New York, were you always interested in moving to someplace like New York, or what was it that really got you into that idea of striking out in a major city? And maybe Cami, you can go first.
Okay. No, I wasn't always interested in moving to a big city. Growing up in Utah, I kind of didn't think I would like it because Utah's kind of a more low-key place, a little more chill. And I always saw New York as kind of like a hustly bustly kind of stressful place. But when I was 18, I was a nanny in New Jersey, and my nanny friend and I would travel to Manhattan on the weekends, and I fell in love with it. It was just like unlike any place I'd ever been to. There's just so much energy here, and to me it's creative energy. Like people, you go on the subway and there's dancers dancing, and you go to a restaurant and you have like the best udon noodles you've ever eaten, and there's just so much creativity in so many different forms and so much energy here. And when I got a taste of that as a nanny, I just thought to myself, okay, this is like somewhere I might want to live someday, because it just feels like a place to be. So yeah, I love it now.
And I always wanted to move to New York. I know that my mom is listening, but growing up in Bountiful made me very motivated to not live anywhere in Utah for the remainder of my life. But coming to New York, the first time I came as an adult, I remember emerging from the subway in crazy Times Square, which, Cami, I'm sure you agree, I would never go to willingly now, but then I was so excited. And I remember seeing that people lived above restaurants and bars in such a bustling area, and it blew my mind. I had just finished living in Snow Hall for a year, where you had to take a bus in the cold for 20 minutes to go to a cafeteria, and it blew my mind that people were living in this city and literally above restaurants. And that imagery really stayed with me for a long time. When I decided what I wanted to do, that was kind of the goal. I wanted to see inside of those apartments, and I wanted to be there in the middle of it. And I think that kind of pushed me, maybe not so consciously, to find a way to get back here. So yeah, in a strange way, I think I always did want to be here.
Nice. Well, thank you. I appreciate you both sharing your experiences about that, because I think it does take a lot of confidence when you're coming from, a place in the Intermountain West to really strike out for New York City. Although some of us, like me, make the reverse move and live in several major metropolitan areas and then wind up in Logan, Utah. So it can happen either way. You both made your way into careers that sort of required you to pick up additional skills or to learn on the job, right? You sort of both took a bit of a pivot maybe from what you were planning when you were still students. Can you tell us a little bit about, gaining the confidence to try new things or to share any advice you'd have for students who are looking to make a change after they graduate? And Danica, how about we start with you this time?
Absolutely. When I graduated from Utah State, it seemed like everyone I knew and my very close friends knew exactly what they wanted to do. And they did it so quickly. I had friends that moved to work for amazing PR firms. I had friends that were traveling the world with their incredible jobs. And I was not only not thrilled at my events position that I thought I wanted, but I was not very good at my position. And it took me a long time to fully embrace the fact that I had made not a mistake, but a decision that I wasn't happy with. Coming to terms with the fact that I was in love with retail took a while because I was a bit embarrassed. I thought that working at a store and selling necklaces wasn't quite to the caliber of my friends who are in these incredible career paths. So to me, it took a minute to really realize the levity of happiness and feeling really, enjoying my day-to-day activity. And so I think I dragged my feet and really jumping into my passion. So I would say to former, or recent graduates to really trust your gut. And if your gut tells you that it's time to start over and try again, to really take that to heart and see what you can do. When you're 23 and you think that you're falling behind, looking back, it's laughable because you have nothing but time and nothing but opportunities. And I wish that I had trusted myself in that much, much sooner.
Yeah, for me, it was a process for sure. And I think confidence is one of the key words for me in that question. It's just that gaining confidence has kind of been, increasing my confidence has been a lifelong process for me, and it's still happening. And I think that it's not only important in your career, but just in your life in general. And as I've gradually increased my confidence, I feel like that has opened up opportunities for me that I never thought I would do. And I think my advice for people to increase their confidence or to seek that out is to take as many opportunities as you can, paid or unpaid, big or small. Just do as many things as you can, because that experience will give you confidence to keep moving forward or to switch directions and try something different. And I think along with that, don't be afraid to do hard things that you might not think you can do. It's scary to go for something that you don't think you'd be good at or that you don't think you belong in that place. But I think it's something that is important to figure out what you like and what you don't like and what you're good at. There are things that I'm still learning that I think, oh, I'm kind of good at this, but I never thought I would be good at this. And the only way I knew is that I tried and I took that risk. And then with that being said, I think it's good to take risks, but it's also good to focus on your mental health and make sure you are stepping back when you need to and taking care of yourself mentally, because it's hard to be confident when you don't feel good mentally. And then while you're in college, I think take advantage of all the resources you have. Like when I did my first degree, I was so scared to talk to my professors. I was so timid. I thought that if I talked to them, it would be like a waste of their time or something. But in my second degree, I was able to get over that and talk to my professors more and open up to them. And it made such a big difference. And they honestly provided me with opportunities and advice that I think I wouldn't be where I'm at without that. So I think that can be really invaluable, and it's something worth pursuing for sure. So yeah.
Okay. Thanks. So my next question is, just both professionally and personally, what would you guys say are some of the best and some of the worst things about living and working in New York City? And also, is it a challenge for most people or just simply more of an adjustment? And Cami, I'll start with you first.
Okay. I think it really depends on who you are. So for me, the best things about New York are that creative energy that I was telling you about. So when I first moved here, I've kind of always seen myself as like a person who likes to relax and not be, I'm not a very energetic person. Like I'm not like, okay, let's get out there and tackle the day, you know? I'm just kind of more like, oh, I want to lay in bed and read a book or something. But I noticed that New York kind of like gave me this energy that I'd never had before. And I felt like I was working harder than I ever had before. And part of that might have been that I was really excited about my career trajectory, but also just there was this energy here that people around you have, and it kind of like fills you with that same energy. So I love that. I think the worst things are laundry. That's really hard. We don't have it in our building, so I have to walk like a few blocks to do my laundry, and that's tiring. And then also not having easy access to outdoor activities. Like I really miss the mountains. And Andrea, I can totally see why you moved back to Utah, because I think I took for granted the beauty of Utah and the easy access to nature that I had there. But that being said, I feel like there are so many beautiful things about New York that you could never experience in Utah. So I think it's just kind of a give and take. And as far as like it being an adjustment or if it's challenging for most people, again, I think that just depends. Like for me, when I first moved here, I felt like it was easier for me than my husband. Like it was kind of hard for him at first. And now we've kind of like flopped places. Like I think I more often am like, wait, should we move to somewhere else? And he's like, no, I love New York. We got to stay. So I think it's just depending on what you care about, what you miss about other places, and what you love about New York and what keeps you here. So.
I definitely agree. It's funny. I've noticed recently it's impossible to talk about New York City without this like undulating self-congratulations on living here, even through the terrible times. And so even when I was trying to think about the things I dislike, I think it came out as a way that I really enjoyed myself. And Cami, exactly what you said. I think that there's just this energy here in New York, and feeling like you're a part of the chaos and a part of the energy is intoxicating. I've felt at home here since day one. I absolutely love it. When someone asks me where something is, if I give them right or wrong directions, I feel like high-fiving myself. It's just there's something so nice that you feel like a bit of a landmark in the city, and after some time it becomes more comfortable and more comfortable. You find yourself being less shocked by the things that you see in the city, and it feels very nice. But I would say that the best part of New York is really not knowing where the day will take you. Before the shutdown and everything, I would so often find myself laying in bed thinking, oh my gosh, who would have thought this morning that this is where the day would have taken me? I think that, doors and windows and people are open to you here in ways that I would have never imagined. And I love it. The worst parts of living here are probably the terrible Mexican food, the humidity, and rent. Those, aside from that, I'm a big fan.
Well, thank you. I will agree that the humidity is hard to get used to when you've been in a place like Utah for a long time. I'm going to ask the last question, but before I do want to remind our audience, I see that we've had several questions come in through the Q&A. I received some questions via the email before we started. So London is going to be getting to those here shortly, and we'll be going through questions with Cami and Danica. But if you have questions about anything that Cami and Danica have talked about this morning or something they haven't addressed yet, now would be the time to start asking. So if you do have questions for our guests today, do populate that Q&A feature while we're going through these last few questions. And we talked a little bit about this while we were chatting before the webinar started this morning. But we know, of course, from the news that COVID impacted places like New York City significantly. And so, you know, we feel obliged to ask, you know, are you both okay? And has COVID, you know, significantly impacted your employer? And if so, how have you dealt with the challenges that have arisen in your industries as a result of the pandemic? And let's see, Danica, we'll start with you.
Sure. Thank you for asking. Doing very well. Feel very lucky to, you know, not only have a position here, but still have, you know, my health and my happiness. It's been very interesting, especially in a retail situation. The building that I work is a bit of a tourist mecca. Everyone comes to New York and wants to have that Audrey Hepburn moment and come to our store. And that was so much of our business, you know, greeting tourists that had always dreamed of walking in these doors, which, you know, people don't really say that when they walk into an H&M. And so a large pride of our business was being able to accommodate those people who had always wanted to shop at Tiffany. So transitioning from, you know, a tourist-centric walk-in business to really figuring out how our local New York City clientele and, you know, those tourists can shop with us both remotely or in-store safely has been a challenge. It took a lot of agility and adjustment, which is great for us here. You know, I think that we got comfortable with the uncomfortable very quickly once we opened our doors back up in late June. But it's been a challenge. Absolutely. I miss a lot of things that I loved about retail, but it's nice to know that really any marketplace can evolve and facilitate at any means necessary. You know, a lot of Zoom has happened when that would have never been the case in a retail setting otherwise. And we're finding constantly new mediums to adjust. And so it's been interesting. I can't wait until we have those tourists back again, and then we can welcome people back in the store and celebrate in the way that we love to here at Tiffany. But for now, we're making do, and it's constantly evolving.
Yeah, thank you for asking how we're doing. I've been really lucky. I've been lucky in my health and lucky that I've been able to continue to work and to work from home. And it's really interesting to hear your experience, Danica, working in a retail space. Most of my work is on the computer. So in some ways, things didn't change much for me, but in a lot of ways, it changed a lot. And I think one of my colleagues put it really well by saying that the execution is better because people are at home and they're just like able to get to something really quickly. But the communication, the strategy, and the creative planning is a lot more difficult because you can't just turn over to the next desk over and talk to your colleague and say, oh, this came up, like, what do you think? Or I have a question about this. What do you know? Tell me your experience. And so I think it has been an adjustment for us as well. And we've had to make a lot of changes in the way that we market to our customers because the customers that buy Dagne Dover bags have changed what they're buying. They no longer need the bigger bags that they were carrying to work. They need the smaller bags that they can take to the grocery store on a quick run. So I think just like trying to understand what people are going through and be really aware of that in how we are speaking to them as a company. And then also just being transparent on our end too, and being relatable to people and kind of opening up. Like on our Instagram, we've become a lot more transparent. And I think it's been good to just kind of take it to that relatable level when everyone's kind of going through a lot and just need to feel like they're not alone. So yeah, it's been a really big adjustment, but I'm so grateful to work for a company that was able to quickly change course and start doing things differently where needed. So it's been good, even though it's been hard.
Thank you both so much for everything that you've shared so far. And now we've got a bunch of questions that have been rolling in while you've been talking. So I'll start by asking one of those. The first question to start off is, what experiences or opportunities of your time at USU best prepared you for your current career? And Cami, we can start with you on this one.
Okay, that's a great question. I think, like I mentioned earlier, going to my professors and talking to them a lot more and opening up that conversation with them really provided me with some experiences that were so great. Like I had a couple of professors in plant science who they knew that I liked graphic design and plant science, and they wanted to help me pursue that more. And one of them was creating a lab manual for one of her classes and helped me. She just decided to employ me as the graphic artist for these like plant cross-section diagrams that were in the book. And it gave me such a good experience. And she trusted me to do it, even though I didn't really know what I was doing. And I think she knew that, but she just wanted to help me and she cared about me. And I think that that was so valuable. And then through that, she told another professor that I was doing that for her. And he asked me to do a diagram for one of his research articles that he was writing. And so I think just like having people and mentors that really care about you and know what you like and know what you want to pursue made a big difference for me. And then like internships like you're doing, London, I think that trying to get as much experience as you can in as many different areas as you're interested in can really make a big difference. Because for me, learning in a classroom, I loved, but there's a difference between learning something and doing it. And when you're doing it, you can find out, okay, do I really love this? Is this something I could do and get paid for? Or is this just something I want as a hobby? And I think on the job, hands-on experience is how you figure that out.
For me, my time at Utah State, I feel like the connections that I made and the networking that I made with other students has been such a huge asset to me in my adult life. I was a part of the Greek community as well as during in the journalism department. I made some close friends that to this day I really hang out with here in New York and connect with on both a professional and personal level. I decided to study abroad my last semester at Utah State. And I think that that specifically really pushed me to do things far out of my comfort zone and to really experience the world and diversity in a way that I had never experienced before. So for me, just taking those small, I mean, not small, but those like, safer risks in a very controlled environment at USU really helped shape my experience and my appetite for the world.
Thank you for both sharing that. It's really useful to hear everybody's own intake on, your own opinion on what you thought was most useful for you. The next question that we have focuses more on New York. So this one says, what's the best way to get started in a place like New York City? I'm a journalism PR major, and I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I'm very interested in working in New York City or the surrounding areas. So what would you suggest? And Danica, we can start with you on this one.
Sure. I truly and wholeheartedly believe that the hardest part of moving to New York is physically moving to New York. I think that once you're here, it sounds corny, but so often people are very excited to introduce you to their friends, their colleagues, their connections. So I think just finding that one person, that one colleague, alumni, whomever it may be, to really connect to and getting yourself physically here, often the rest falls into place, and it's easier said than done. I know that it's financially so difficult to get here at times, but it seems to kind of work out once you have, your connections here. And people are so kind. They truly are. I think that most people here moved here in a terrified manner. And so they get it. And I think that a lot of people are very eager to help. So my advice would be to identify a couple people, identify a couple companies that you'd like to work with, make those connections and commit to being here. And I think it makes a world of difference.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Danica said. I think for me, it was all about talking to a lot of people and figuring out what life in New York is like and what it takes to move here. And I was really scared at first. I was scared about lots of things, but it was just a big move. And even though I really wanted to be here, I honestly didn't know if I could do it. And I think talking to other people helped me feel more confident about making that decision and making that move. And then, yeah, just like reaching out to as many people as I could and in as many companies as I could. And you never know who's going to say yes and who's going to open their door for you. And I think that, I was kind of afraid to do that and reach out to people. And back to the confidence thing, like I just didn't know if I had it in me to be a New Yorker or to live in New York. But I think just be confident in yourself and your ability to learn and grow and do hard things. And people will take a chance on you. And I feel like all the people I've met in New York have just been incredibly inviting and helpful. And that is one thing about New Yorkers, is they love helping people out. Like if you get in their way on the way to work, that's not good. But if you're lost and you need directions, they will absolutely help you. They just are that way. And I think it's a great quality and a great thing about New York. And they were once in your shoes probably. And so I think they just understand that we're all in this together. Yeah.
It's really encouraging to hear both of you talk about just kind of giving it a shot and finding people to help you along the way. But the next question kind of focuses more on, it sounds like New York is a really expensive area to live. So what would you suggest on how should a USU student think about the cost and the benefit of living in New York City? And Cami, you can go ahead on that one.
Okay, yeah, it is a hurdle, definitely. And it feels like, it almost feels impossible. Like when you sit down and write out the numbers, it's like, how do people do this? Even now when I budget, I'm like, how am I doing this? It's a lot, but I think there's a reason people do it and there are ways to make it work. I think one of the biggest things that I just thought of when you were reading the question is do your research on where you live. Because even though there are expensive areas, there are also areas that are maybe comparable to like an apartment in Salt Lake. And you might have to sacrifice certain things like distance to the subway or distance to Manhattan. Although things are changing a lot with COVID right now because a lot of people are remote and people who were living in Manhattan are now moving to Brooklyn, and there's kind of like a mass exodus. So in a way, moving here right now is actually a good time financially because you can get an apartment in Manhattan that normally would be out of your price range, but right now is in your price range. So I think just taking the leap and trying to save up before you move here is a good idea because finding an apartment can be hard at times. And if you have a little bit of money saved up, you might be able to like stay with a friend while you're looking for a place. And it's a lot easier to find an apartment once you're here than when you're in Utah. So it's one of those places where you kind of have to take a leap of faith.
Agreed. And Cami, I completely agree. I think it's such an alignment of priorities. When I first came here, I viewed a couple of apartments that were as big as like the hallway of the home I was living in Salt Lake, and I thought there's no way I'm going to live in this space. But you get used to it. I think it's like the goldfish in a bowl. Like you really do make it your own. And the priorities for me specifically living here and kind of having to make it work in a smaller space with a hugely inflated lifestyle budget makes sense, and it makes me happy. And I think that if it's worth it, it I hate to say it works itself out, but if you know your worth and you find something that you're passionate and good about, I think that the constant conversation of, am I being compensated correctly? Am I spending my money in the right places? It really gets you to the place where you can feel comfortable and have a great time here. Having said that, is it great to spend $20 on a cocktail every time I go out? Probably not. It's definitely not the most comforting feeling. But at the end of the day, you have to figure out what works for you and what doesn't, just like any other lifestyle. But it's doable. That's the thing that I never really thought that it would be, is it's doable. Once you get here, you kind of figure it out. And whether it's a tiny apartment or not eating out for a month, you prioritize that, and it seems to work out okay.
And if you would both remind us again, how long was it after you graduated that you found your jobs in New York?
Well, that's a good question. So I graduated in 2015. I moved in 2018, so like 3 years. And it wasn't easy. Like I think sometimes when you're on the other side, like when you're where I am, it's like, oh, it all worked out. But when you're on the other side where you're like, how do I make this work? It feels hard. But I think just like one step at a time and one progression forward can help you get to the next one. And then eventually you're where you want to be. So yeah.
I do some quick math, remember how old I am, but it was 5 years for me. 5 years after graduation, I was out here. I was in Salt Lake for a bit of time beforehand, but yeah, it took me 5 years.
So both of you didn't quite start out in the field or in the job where you are now, or at least didn't have that mindset. So you both realized that your first jobs weren't quite the right fit for you. What advice do you have for early professionals who find themselves in a job that's not quite right? And how can they transition to a new job without sacrificing the gains they've made in getting that first job? And whoever has it come to mind first can go ahead.
Sure. I will say the first thing to do is to just not compare yourself to other people. I think that that's really when you get stuck in a hole of like, oh, I can't start over. My friends are doing such an incredible job. My friends are doing this and that. My colleagues feel this way. I think just being very honest with yourself. And even if you're unhappy, if you decide to stick it out, tell yourself daily, I'm sticking it out for a reason. I thought that for me specifically, I thought that retail would be kind of a pit stop for me while I figure out what it is that I love. And in that, I very luckily ended up doing something that I truly enjoy. So I mean, at one point I was like 24 and I was working out beans and brews as a barista, trying to supplement income and figuring out if I love to work in the coffee industry. So I think just not taking it personally and, putting the investment in your time and your energy to figure out what really works for you is important, because some people aren't so lucky to know right off the bat what they want to do, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's incredible advice. I totally agree on not comparing yourself. I think that's where you get into a roadblock, because you feel like you can't do something unless someone else already did it and it's proven to work. And I think along with that, one of the things that I feel like helped me was to sit down and write down, what do I like about my current job? What do I not like? And why do I not like these things? And why do I like these things? And then decide, like, is it worth doing the things that I like about this job to keep going, even though there are things that I don't like? Or is it worth it for me to switch it up and see if there's something I like better? And I think one of the things that I feel like when I was younger, it was all, I don't know if people still talk this way about careers, but it was like, do what you're passionate about and then you'll always be happy. But I don't think that's the case for everyone. I think some people, they work to enjoy their life, they work to make money to enjoy their life. And some people work because it's their passion. I would say I'm like somewhere in between, you know. I enjoy work and I love it, but I also really like my personal life and I like what I do there. And I guess that can help you decide, like, maybe there isn't a job that makes you feel like passionate and this is what I've always wanted to do. And maybe that's okay. Like, it's okay to just do a job that you're good at. But I also think it's important to explore that. If you are having doubts about what you're currently doing, don't ignore those.
So our next question is directed towards Cami, but Danica, you can also answer as well. Looks like we've got a couple people from Vouray that are listening today. And so Lexi from Vouray wants to say hi and ask, Cami, how do you get out of a creative rut? Or do you have any advice for that?
Hey, Lexi. Oh, it's so awesome to know that there are people from Vouray listening. I love Vouray. It's such a great place. And creative ruts are hard. For me, I think doing something physically active is really helpful. And just like if I'm working on a big project and I'm trying to get it perfected, and like for me, sometimes it's like, oh, I got to move it up 2 pixels. Oh no, that was too much. I got to move it down. Like once I start getting into the nitty gritty, then I think, okay, wait, I need to take a step back and go for a run, go for a walk, take a shower. Like sometimes in the shower, I have my best thoughts, but just do something that's totally different and even come back to it the next day. Don't feel like you have to finish what you're working on while you're working on it. I think giving yourself a break can be so important. And oftentimes when I do that, I'll be like cooking dinner or something, and then I'll be like, oh, this is what I should do. Okay. And I make the note, and then I go back to it the next day, and it's a lot easier. And I think also too, just don't feel like you have to be perfect. It's okay sometimes to just create something that's like mediocre, because you're also going to create some things that are amazing. And you shouldn't expect yourself to create the best of the best all the time. And then I think another part of that is just like, remember how much you love creating. I think sometimes when I'm not doing well creatively, it's because I'm like, oh, this is hard. My job is hard. I have to do so many things so quickly. But when I take a step back and think like, okay, I love my job. I love what I'm doing, and like infuse that passion into what you're doing, I think that can kind of reinvigorate your creativity.
Okay, the last question that I have for you guys is, so you've worked, along this career path in your life, and you have used, I assume, many skills that you've learned from your humanities degree. And most of the time, people don't sometimes see a humanities degree in the same light that they see other degrees. So what skills do you think you learned from that degree that have helped you along your path?
I when I was trying to get my PR degree, that was specifically what I was doing. And I found myself in so many journalism classes and ended up getting a journalism degree that I was not thrilled with at the moment. Like, why am I learning interviewing skills? Why am I learning writing skills? And looking back, those are the specific skills that I think are so important for communicating and really working in a professional setting. So I think just the ability, as cheesy it sounds, the ability to communicate succinctly, to write professionally, to be able to organize your thoughts and communicate that with other people, whether it be, strangers, whether it be collaborative partners. It's so incredibly important. And so I think that foundation of the humanities is so necessary to being just like a successful functioning person that works within, you know, the public and professional sector.
One thing I love about the humanities is that you can kind of be a jack of all trades. And I used to feel like I'm a jack of all trades, and I used to feel embarrassed by that, like it was a bad thing. But I think it's actually a really valuable quality to have. I think it's great to know about a lot of different things and explore that. And I think that for me, my liberal arts degree was all about experience, experiencing my science classes, experiencing my writing classes, experiencing French, and whatever sounded interesting to me. I think without all that, I wouldn't have been able to make the decisions that I've been making all along to get me to where I'm at. And I think that it's just a beautiful college that promotes beautiful, creative things. And I think that if that's something that interests you and is inspiring to you, then it's okay to pursue it, even if you don't know exactly what the end goal is. Sometimes you just have to follow your heart and do what feels right, and do what you love, even if it doesn't guarantee you something in the end.
Great. Well, I wanted, just as we're closing up, I just want to thank you, both Danica and Cami. You guys, your experience and everything is really great to hear. And, you know, what I think is really interesting is that you guys are both, you know, kind of like different personalities, have different backgrounds and everything, but, you know, have both been able to do really well in New York with that mindset. I think a lot of times people think, well, you have to have a certain mindset in order to, you know, even survive someplace in New York. But, you know, you guys, and the fact that you guys both feel that energy that just comes from working in a big metropolitan city. And so it just kind of feels like, you know, if you guys can make it there, you can make it anywhere or something. So I've heard. But yeah, thank you both for yeah, talking with us.
Yeah, I so appreciate your time today as well, Cami and Danica. I thought there for a minute Joe might break out into song, but we do so appreciate the chance to step into New York today and to sort of imagine what it would be like to live and work there. So thank you so much for being candid about your experiences, and also, you know, giving great advice to our students about what it means to not compare yourself to others, and to enjoy what you learn and enjoy what you're passionate about, and to really prioritize that over other things. So I do want to thank you both for joining us, and thank you, London, for leading us through a great round of questions. We had a great audience today who asked some really insightful questions. So we appreciate everyone coming to join us today. And I do want to remind everyone on that topic that we do have additional events coming up in March. So on March 4th, we'll be speaking with an alum who is currently a Foreign Service officer. And because Dan Cannon is located in another part of the world, that one will actually start at 9 a.m. We know that's an early time for some of you, but if it's not a good fit, remember that we do record these events and post them to our CHaSS alumni lunch page, so you can always go check them out after the fact. And then on March 18th at our normal time, we'll be speaking with Jason Nelson, who is a vice president at Root, and he's going to be focused specifically on interviewing skills. So if you're feeling inspired by the things that Cami and Danica shared today, and you're ready to start pursuing those things, we hope you'll join us for those additional networking opportunities and opportunities to really focus on some skills that can help you get where you want to go. So we thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions about our programming or need help reaching out to Cami or Danica, feel free to follow up with me or with Joe. And with that, I would just like to wish everyone a wonderful and safe afternoon. And obviously, Danica and Cami, we wish you well in New York, and we thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you. It was wonderful to be here.
Thank you.
It really was. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Goodbye, everyone. Have a good afternoon.